Right. I went to the Opera del Duomo museum here in Florence last night, and they have a collection of Donatello's sculptures in there. There's Michelangelo's Pietà, one of his Pietas in there as well, which is, the museum itself just has an amazing array of sculptures. The thing that I took away from it is I guess the composition that I've noticed, or I've started to pay attention more towards. Right. So what I have here is some of the sculptures that are in that museum. I did take some pictures myself, but these are gathered from Google. So in the middle we have Donatello. So this is all his works. This one is also in the museum, and it's interesting that underneath what you can see here is written Donatello, right? Whereas on the sign that is in front of the sculpture itself, it says Nanni di Bartolo. So I was confused, and I couldn't find anybody to ask what that meant. But after doing some googling, I found out that Nanni di Bartolo was Donatello's pupil, which is very, very visible in here. I mean, when I saw the sculpture, and this is probably one of my favorite from the whole museum, I thought that was Donatello, because, well, there is quite a lot of things, I think, indicate Donatello's style. At least in my view, this is very similar to what Donatello himself was doing. And on the other side, we have a Nanni di Banco. I don't know anything about this sculptor. I found this image while I was looking for Donatello's works, but this one is really nice. Not necessarily for the composition, but for the position, for the pose, for the silhouette, and just the sense of fluidity that we see in this model. Really, really interesting. But to I guess get back to Donatello, who has become, after moving to Florence and seeing his work here in person, he's definitely to me right there with Michelangelo. I might even prefer Donatello's work more than his work more than Michelangelo's. I don't know, very different, obviously very different artists, but he's just incredible. Anyway, the thing that I've noticed about the statues, about the sculptures that I saw in the museum, is that they are all the ones that are in there, they are all quite closed, in a sense of everything is quite tight. We rarely see gaps between limbs, between elements. Here we do see a gap in here, but everything is very tight. The thing about it, though, which is very, very interesting, and I think it's very much Donatello's thing, that the sculptures themselves, they don't read as closed or as being tight. There is, if anything, there's the opposite. It's freedom. There's something about the way that we, well, the feeling that happened, or the feeling that is that evokes when I look at the sculptures. It's the freedom, which is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting because of the because the composition, on the first glance would indicate the opposite. So that was something of a revelation to me, because I was starting to think from that point of view about Michelangelo's work, and then I started to think about my own work. So I've gathered some of those some of those images, some of those examples of Donatello's works, because I wanted to do something with the model that I made myself. And here I'm going to show you what I've done in Photoshop, because I just wanted to experiment quickly, right? And this is what it looks like, right? So the pose is very different. For example, the shoulders, they're differently balanced. I wanted to see if kind of spreading out his leg, one of his legs would do something, and it definitely does something, right? I mean, it's a big change, and from here, from the distance, it actually looks pretty interesting. There's something about the I mean, it's very, very small in here, but there is something about it that I do like. And I was the changes that I've made was they were done after just analyzing the works by Michelangelo, and analyzing the rotations, the kind of gentle, small rotations that he put into his sculptures. So, for example, here, and here, we see that his the shoulders on those sculptures, on those figures, they are all turned, right? Not the shoulders, but the upper torso. Everything is not is kind of dynamic, but very, very subtle in this sense. So it's not just straight. Right, he's not looking at us just straight, full on. Instead, there's a very, very gentle twist. Even in here, we can see that this shoulder is moved forward, whereas this one is being moved backwards, right? And this is the torso is being rotated. If we look at the feet, at the legs, at the lower part of the body, so they're not matching in here, and this is kind of throughout his models, throughout his sculptures, excuse me. We can see it here as well. We can definitely see it in here. And so I wanted to do something with the model that I've created to just make it a little bit more dynamic. And what I realized after doing this change, even though it's a very rough change, very rough just illustration, I guess, of what I wanted to illustration of things that I might want to implement into the model. What I've realized is that this is the wrong figure to apply those changes to, which is I don't know, it's just very interesting. If I look at the person that I'm basing my sculpture, if I look at Lex, it would be, I think it would be wrong to try to do something that I've tried to do here, right? This kind of pose, this kind of, I don't even know how to explain that. Not cheeky, but there's something kind of coolish. that's probably not even the word, but there is something about it that makes him fun, right? Kind of uplifting, enthusiastic, something like that. And I don't really read that in the character of Lex. If anything, I read the almost the opposite. I mean, he's clearly a very closed off person, clearly, because just by looking at the things that he's wearing one suit everywhere, every time, right? So just the most kind of neutral thing you can imagine, that would be this, right? That would be the suit. So his lips are pretty much always closed in this way. So everything about this character, not this character, but everything I think about this person, about Lex, is indicating to me the kind of isolation, the inner isolation, right? So doing something like that simply would not work. But there is another thing that is also quite interesting. When I was before those changes, when I was looking at the results, I somehow thought, well, not somehow, but I thought that the model was too tight. I thought that the upper body was just simply uncomfortable in a sense that it was just too tight. There's something off about it. And after analyzing and seeing all of those works, some of them in person, and well, kind of all of them actually in person except for this one, which is not even Donatello's. But after spending some time just thinking and looking at those works, what I've realized is that he's actually not tight enough, which is very interesting insight that I gathered from this exercise. So what I'm going to try and do next is I'm going to tighten up the upper body. I'm going to leave the legs the way they are. I don't want them to be, even though, like I said, I get a sense from this person, a sense of isolation, of inner isolation, emotional isolation. I don't want everything to indicate that. So the obvious thing to capture that sense would be to close the legs, right? To keep everything tight. But I don't want to do that, because I think another thing that is that I notice about the person, and probably one of the things that attracts people so much to his personality, is that there is some dichotomy in him, which is, despite him being closed off, despite him making jokes about him being a robot and all of that, he plays musical instruments, he reads fictional literature, right? Something that he keeps on bringing up is Dostoevsky, for example, which is, by the way, speaking of being kind of closed off and not very uplifting, to the point of having this kind of post, Dostoevsky is definitely not this, right? Dostoevsky is a very dark, very, very, very dark writer. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I want to have this dichotomy in the sculpture itself as well. So the bottom part is going to stay the same. I want this pose to be the legs, the position of the legs. I want it to be the way they are, which is to me a pose of confidence, right? So kind of legs spread out and stable. So I do want to capture that, and at the same time they're not relaxed. This is something that is very grounded, very solid, right? This to me, this pose is perfect. But the upper part is something that I want to tighten up, because even though I felt that it was too tight already, now that I look at it after all of this, I feel like his arms are just about to open up. It's the opposite now that I see, right? It's they're barely holding on to his body, barely holding on in this position. If anything, I feel, now that I look at it, I feel they are just like I said, they're about to drop. They're about to open up. So with this, all of that, I'm going to proceed, and I will see what kind of tools I can implement in here.